So what does it take to be a macro investor? Someone's listening today and they want to get into macro investing.
Macro investing is about living in the future and working back to the present day and trying to assess the probabilities. So what you're looking at always is the knock-on effects. So it's like a decision tree, and you're trying to assess the probabilities of the decision tree. So right now the world is looking at inflation. So you look forward and say, okay, we have inflation and that is the narrative. What's going to happen from here? And is the market pricing that? So if you want to price in more inflation, it's kind of in the price. So your probability of making high returns is low. But if you can find a set of circumstances that could come into play where inflation falls or growth falls, well, then you can make a ton of money because you're going against what is priced into markets. So it's this, and then moving further into the future. What is the big picture influences? So it's most people, bizarrely, in macro are very chart driven because we're very visual, because you have to hold this mental map of how everything fits together. And it's all interconnectedness between, economies, markets, and between markets, and understanding that relationship overlaid with human behavior. So it's macro has always brought a certain type of person. They tend to be very smart in a broad way because it has a unique skill set. It's because it's really hard for some people and really natural for others. It was really natural for me because I was an incredibly visual person and I was always joining the dots, thinking forward, living in the future. Other people who are very detail driven, now driven, you can be macro, but it's very different. You tend to be more model driven and stuff like that, as opposed to thought driven.
So you essentially have to kind of look at the world holistically, right? Not just in a tunnel vision, but rather just this broad perspective.
I think of it as the world's most beautiful 3 or 4D jigsaw puzzle that you can only solve for brief seconds in time. And when you do, you get rewarded with a positive P&L. When you solve it badly, you lose money. And so that's why everybody loves it. It's being given the world's most beautiful puzzle that is unsolvable. But there was that magic moment when you solve it all. I had that moment outside of crypto. I had that moment in 2020 where I was forecasting a recession based on my stuff. Then obviously the pandemic comes and I saw everything in clarity of everything I needed to do in advance. And, that moment is what we live for in macro.